Good afternoon and welcome to Government Contracting series. My name is Mary Jo Williams and I'll be your moderator and facilitator for today's event. But before we get started, let me share some information with you about the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center.
Has your business been affected by COVID-19? The Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center is available to assist entrepreneurs and small businesses in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The VISBDC is sustained by the University of the Virgin Islands and the U.S. Small Business Administration and collaborates with local agencies to support the small business community. The VISBDC is nationally accredited and provides free consulting, business education training, and technical assistance. Attend workshops with subject matter experts from both the public and private sector. From idea generation to exit strategies, the staff at the VISBDC is ready to assist you. Now is the time to contact them, so don't wait. Call or email them to find out how they can help your business grow and succeed.
¿Su negocio ha sido afectado por COVID-19? El Centro de Desarrollo de Pequeñas Empresas está disponible para ayudar a los empresarios en las Islas Vírgenes de los Estados Unidos. El VISBDC es sostenido por la Universidad de las Islas Vírgenes y la Administración de Pequeñas Empresas de los Estados Unidos para apoyar a la comunidad de negocios pequeños. El VISBDC está acreditado a nivel nacional y ofrece consultoría gratuita, educación empresarial y asistencia técnica. Asiste a talleres con expertos en la materia, tanto del sector público como del privado. Desde generaciones de ideas hasta estrategia de salida, el personal del VISBDC está listo para ayudarlo. Ahora es el momento de contactarlos si necesita ayuda. Llame o envíe un correo electrónico para averiguar cómo puede ayudar a que su negocio crezca y tenga éxito.
Good day. I'm Stacy Plaskett, Delegate to Congress for the Virgin Islands of the United States. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to this Government Contracting webinar series. The VI Small Business Development Center, along with my team, have worked collaboratively over the past few weeks to pull together the invaluable resources and information that will be shared over the next month and a half. There are a number of excellent opportunities available to us as Virgin Islanders, and once we are armed with the right knowledge and opportunities, we have the capacity to truly build the future that we deserve. It is my hope that the details and resources provided will be a significant help for each of you who participate. A special thank you to Mary Jo Williams and the VI Small Business Development Center team who put this together. And thank you to each of you for joining us.
Okay, Ms. Monchez, you can share your screen. Okay, our presenter for today is Ms. Sherry Monchez. She is the current president and CEO of Clever Maniacs, a fully licensed consulting agency headquartered in the Virgin Islands, with offices on St. Croix and St. Thomas, and Continental Construction and Engineering. As a Virgin Islander, Sherry attended both public and private primary and secondary school on St. Croix and the University of the Virgin Islands. Sherry is the CEO of the family's transportation and logistics company. Her earliest experience with disaster recovery was following Hurricane Hugo, which included FEMA temporary housing, transportation and logistics, relocation of the underwater lab from Fairleigh Dickinson University to UNC, and numerous local and federal relocation programs. Ms. Monchez is a successful businesswoman with strong skills in public relations, brand management, talent acquisition, and crisis management. As a seasoned communicator and public speaker, Ms. Monchez has often articulated solutions to challenging situations where cultural, religious, and political viewpoints are strained using her extensive experience in business and communications. and she comes to us today as the expert on and providing information on tips, strategies, and best practices with government contracting. Ms. Munches, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is well. Today, I hope to convey to you some tips and procedures that'll help you to acquire more business from the local and federal governments. At this time of my life, at this point in my life, I've gained a lot of experience that I feel needs to be shared. And the philosophy that we can help each other succeed has brought me here today through the delegates program for this lunch and learn. So I hope everyone can take something away from that. Now, let me just start my slides. So we're going to talk a little bit about federal and local procurement, things that are available in the territory and how you can start to understand the process in acquiring some of these contracts, or at least participating in them as a subcontractor. So currently I'm in business with Clever Maniacs, Concrete VI, and Continental Construction and Engineering. Those firms have participated in both local and federal contracts. And I think that some of the processes that I will share here with you will help you to understand the engagement necessary in order to achieve these goals with your firm. Clever Maniacs does public relations, as Ms. Williams stated, staffing and business development. Concrete VI is a supplier of concrete and aggregate in the territory. And Continental Construction and Engineering is a construction and engineering firm holding multiple licenses. And I will share a little bit with you how I have been able to use my woman-owned business certification to acquire contracts and participate as subs. So here's some links on our site about COVID. Hope that everybody gets their shots and wears their masks and keeps each other safe. The information provided herein is accurate to the best of my ability at the time of this presentation. Some or all of the provisions mentioned herein could or may change be changed by the current administration with or without prior notice. So to this point, you want to keep up with your SBA representative. You want to make sure that you're enrolled for all of the current newsletters from each of the agencies that you'd like to do business with, and keep your SAMS registrations up to date so that you can get notifications. We're going to discuss what is government contracting, is your business ready, certification and procurement, finding opportunities to get started, and opportunities and requirements of the U.S. Virgin Islands. We'll have a recap session, and you guys are welcome to drop some questions in there, and Ms. Williams will share those with me. So what is government contracting? The government, both local and federally, procures a full range of products, from pencils and toilet paper, IT, construction, and everything in between. There are 3 levels of procurement: local, state, and federal. And each level of has a different way of doing business and different and specific requirements. You can participate in this procurement process as a prime contractor directly to the government entity, or as a subcontractor to someone who has been awarded, and you can come in as a sub. So why would you consider government contracting? So the US government is the world's largest buyer of goods and services. The Small Business Administration is required by law to provide 23% of all opportunities to small businesses. And then there are subsets within that set aside specifically for women, veterans, minorities, and the such. Annual spending is approaching $600 billion, and that's $138 billion set aside specifically for small businesses. Local governments spend more nationwide than the federal government. So you have to have a clear line of sight to how your community is procuring. And here in the territory, there are very specific approaches to doing business with the government. But just because you're located in the Virgin Islands does not mean that you cannot participate with other governments. 1 second, please. There you go. I had to get my cord. So is your business ready to participate in this procurement process? So obviously the first question and the reason that you're here today is, are you an established business? You're either in business or you're getting ready to go into business, and you have an idea of how you want to expand. Do you have a business plan that includes government contracting? Can you afford to sell to the government? Because you have to be able to cash flow this process from the procurement side all the way through into including holding your invoices on the back end after your piece of your contract has been satisfied. Does your company have a history of sales that you can present in your RFP or IFB? Do you have the necessary market research to determine the government's demand for your product or service? Is your company e-commerce capable? Do you have a website? If you've answered yes to these questions, you probably have already done the back-end work that's going to drive you to business procurement through the government. So when you start to look at who your customer could be, you've got the contractors that are already participating as 8A hub zones, SAM, VA procurement. We've got the USVI property and procurement, and many other agencies under the government that may procure individually. Also, there are opportunities on SAM. So you've got to understand who you're going to procure for and what you think you're going to offer. So certification and procurement. Do you hold 51% or more ownership in the company? Do you personally control the day-to-day operations and act as the final say in the business and hold the necessary licenses? Do you fall within the small business guidelines for the U.S. Virgin Islands as established by your NAICS code for federal work? These are all questions that are going to be asked on any application when you start to certify your business in one of the classifications: veterans, women's, small business, minority. These are the things that you're going to have the answer to. What are the benefits of the certification? Well, the government is the most reliable customer. Procurements, in most cases for products and services, are reoccurring. It helps to set your company apart because once you've gone through the certification processes, other businesses that seek to do business with you know that you've met the minimum requirements to participate with the federal and territorial government. You have access to set-aside contracts and sole source contracts based on your certification and designations. You have increased opportunity with prime contractors required to fill participation goals. So although you may not end up as the prime yourself, the fact that you've gone through these certifications sets you aside with people that may be awarded the main contract. So also the offer support through additional government programs such as the Mentor Protege program. All of these things that I've mentioned here are available on the SBA website so that you can get further details and go through the application and certification processes so that your business has fair access to the benefits of those certifications. Federal procurement. Federal procurement benefits, as we stated earlier, is that there's $600 billion in government contracts being offered. The government is required to award 23% of these contracts to small businesses. When you have a certification that designates you as veterans or women-owned, you have decreased competition in the set-aside contracts the sole source opportunities. And when you enroll in a mentor protege program, you have increased opportunities. You're also identified for teaming opportunities, and you have increased visibility among government buyers. FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulations, are the code for all contracting basis in federal contracts. It's good to become familiar with these regulations so that you can understand how the procurement process will affect your payment, the handling of your documentation, and all of these things are critical to succeeding and getting your, first of all, your bid accepted, and then second of all, your contract paid for. So the purpose of uniform policies and procedures for acquisition is to be used by all executive agencies. Bids, RFPs, contracts will reference the FAR clauses as they outline the rules. Make sure you read them. So what does the government buy? Well, we're coming on the other side of a major disaster, and we understand here in the territory intimately how the government participates in contracting environmental services, A&E, but there are also a myriad of other things that they procure: HR services, transportation, weapons and ammunition, printing, graphic design and consulting, office supplies, security supplies, custodial, and translation services, advertising and marketing. So there's a myriad of things that the government procures. What are those mechanisms? Well, the federal supply schedules, blanket purchase agreements, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts, sole sourcing contracts, and simplified acquisition thresholds, the SAT, are some of the listings of the mechanisms that are used to procure goods and services. I would become familiar with all of these acronyms so that you can start to understand the language of federal procurement. Some of the certifications that we've mentioned earlier are the women-owned and economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, the 8A Business Development Program, the Hub Zone, which is the historically underutilized business zones, and the territory of the Virgin Islands is a hub zone. Just because your business is located in a hub zone does not mean that it is certified for hub zone. So you would definitely want to go through the process to make sure that you have become certified. And disabled veterans or veteran-owned small businesses is a very good category for those that have served or have become disabled in their service. There are set-asides locally and nationally for veterans to participate widely in the procurement process. Federal registration is the SAMS Award Management. You guys have probably heard a lot about SAMS. It's become part of our language here in the territory. You need to define your code, which is the type of business that you're in the North American Industry Classification System, obtain a DUNS number, register with SAMS Award Management. And we've indicated that you need to be wary of scammers. The entire process to get a SAMS number is in fact free of charge. It's not easy, but it is free. So I would like for you to know that sometimes you'll receive an email in your box that says, we help you with your SAMS number. If it ends with anything except .gov at the end of that email address, it is probably a private for-profit entity. And I would caution you that you make a business decision as to whether or not you intend to pay to acquire your SAMS number. It is not necessary. The territory procurement. In the Virgin Islands, we have multiple contracts available right now that are federally funded. We also have multiple small business contracts that are available that come through procurement and the different agencies that are either autonomous or semi-autonomous. everything from the hospital to the water sources, corrections, general services, transportation, they're out there. What are the states buying? The states, including the territory, are buying everything from healthcare services, maintenance, construction, you name it. So these are the various areas, and you need to identify which business code is going to suit your entity. The Disadvantaged Enterprise Classification is a program designed to ensure small business firms can compete fairly for federally funded transportation-related projects, and this applies only to the transportation industry. So if you're not involved in that industry, that doesn't apply to you, but it does look at your socioeconomic disadvantage, each owner's personal net worth, and they do require financial statements for that, your business size standard, your ownership structure, whether or not you're functioning independent of another organization, who participates in your management day to day, and it is federally required that they do a face-to-face visit, or during the pandemic, these may be conducted by Zoom meeting. When you look at doing business with the territory, it's a great way to introduce yourself to the bidding and procurement process and to gain some experience with government contracting. Getting into the process, whether you are awarded the contract or not, will help you to become familiar with the nuances of the processes that may not necessarily be documented in writing. So you need to just get a feel for how the business works. The Department of Property and Procurement in the Virgin Islands is responsible for the majority of procurements. Their listings are open to the public. You can register on that website. There is a tab for that. And it's a very friendly agency where they can help you to walk through the statements, the process of participating in those procurements. And those procurements are not only general contracting, but they are all procurements for whatever the government is using. So you can see office supply procurements, you can see psychiatric services, you can see survey services, and anything that the government is trying to buy here in the territory. So finding opportunities, I'm suggesting that you start to monitor Property and Procurement's website through their database. The new extension for SAMS is beta.sam.gov. And they post everything that is being procured nationwide. So you have the ability to search by territory, by state, by city, by deliverable type, so that you can understand where you can participate. If you have a marketing company, for instance, and you search marketing and advertising, and they want to buy, $50,000 worth of postcards, and you're sitting in the territory of the Virgin Islands, you can participate in that procurement. So it really helps to open up other avenues that are outside the territory so that you can grow your business. So I'm going to suggest that you register as a vendor with all the entities that you want to do business with, whether you're ready to start participating or not, just to get your feet wet. Get certified in any of the categories that you're eligible for. These efforts can be time-consuming and expensive. And the reason that I notated that in this slide is that there are some certifications that are going to require in-depth financials, whether audited or not. They're going to require that you have certain levels of bookkeeping up to date and tax filing. So you have to have these things done. There may be other related licenses that you need to procure. So you have to look at the budget and you have to do a cost analysis as far as, if I have myself ready, willing, and available to procure this business, can I afford to get all of these certification and financial obligations met? So it's something that you have to plan for. It's something that you have to add to your business plan, as we said in the beginning of the slides. Do your research and know who your competitors are. If you have a recognized agency that you want to do business with and you're familiar with somebody that's already selling them the widget that you are selling, your best opportunity in that marketplace may be introducing yourself to that supplier and letting them know that you're intending to enter that market and how could they help you. You may be surprised that there's a lot of opportunity, especially for those that have advanced thinking, to participate with subcontractors so that you can do part of their heavy lifting because you're supplying and you're approaching the same business that they're already in. Someone is not to be overlooked just because you consider them your competitor. You can create some synergy. Familiarize yourself with the agency heads, and the representatives that you'll be working to interface with. It's sitting down, shaking hands, and having a discussion may save you a lot of pain once you're in the process. Relationship building is the key to succeeding. Relationships with the entities that are the agencies, relationships with your competitors, relationships with your SBDC managers and members, your retirement community, people that you know have had success in the type of business that you're doing, but maybe even in the government itself. So don't be afraid to start small with the territory or subcontracting to boost your past performance record, which will become an integral part of your requirements for placing your own bid in the months and years to come. So does anyone have any questions?
Okay, that was pretty good information. And while people are putting their questions in the chat, I'm going to ask a question. The poll question is, are you registered in SAM? And for those that are on Facebook, you can't see the poll question, but the answers to the questions is yes or no. And I'll give you guys another couple of seconds and I will end the poll. And in ending the poll now, wow, 30% of our audience that responded to the question are registered in SAM. That means 70% of the people are not registered in SAM, which means you guys should be ringing the phone of SBDC so we can help you get registered in SAM if you want to do business with the government.
I'd like to speak to that a little bit if I can, Ms. Williams.
Sure.
Prior to Hurricanes Irma and Maria, the territory of the Virgin Islands was doing procurements without the requirements of a SAMS number. And that is because the majority of our procurements were outside of federal funding. That has changed significantly because federal monies, not only in its entirety for a program, but sometimes partially in RFPs or IFBs that are published. So when there's the component of the federal financing, you need to make sure that you have your SAMS number. When you have that SAMS number, it means that you can literally respond to anything that you see on the procurement websites as long as you qualify as a supplier.
That's pretty good. I'm going to launch the next question. It says, do you have any experience with contracts with federal agencies? And if you're not registered in SAM, you probably don't have much experience with federal agencies, but we'll send out the question anyway. And we'll give you another 3 seconds to answer. And those numbers are changing quickly. I will end the poll now. And I will share the results. And 31% of the people that responded said that they do have experience with federal agencies, contracts with federal agencies, and 69% say they don't. So that's pretty much mirrors the people that are registered in SAM.
I'll make a comment on that as well.
Okay.
One of the most interesting and valuable components to responding to federal requests for bids is in fact certifying yourself as the entity that you're able to qualify for. So as a woman, as a veteran, as a minority, as a Native American, you are entitled to special set-asides because of the disadvantages that have existed in the past. That does not mean that, you know, any person that's less qualified is going to get the contract. It means that the contracts can specifically be set aside so that you can compete fairly with people that are in your same situation. So there may be a veteran's set aside or a woman's set aside that excludes all of the other people that qualify, let's say, under the small business umbrella. So it just makes the playing field a little bit more competitive so that you can get extra points when you're bidding and you have a greater chance of winning. And in the SAM's beta website, where the opportunities are in fact published, as you start playing around and filtering those, as I used the example of the postcards earlier, you can find opportunities that you can supply. And ladies that are on the site with us, if you are, you know, working from home, doing programming or doing some type of digital marketing or some type of, you know, physical procurement, or you're a consultant, those skill sets that you bring with you, you know, right through the COVID can create opportunity for you to become a really national professional, because some of those things you can do right from your armchair.
All right. Okay, question. Have you done any contracts with states apart from the territory? That question was for you, Ms. Monches, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wondered why the little box didn't come up.
No, sorry. Yeah, that was a question in the chat.
I had the pleasure of working on the mainland for about a decade before I returned home. And I had the great experience of participating in some housing procurements as a subcontractor. And that's really where I was able to participate at that level. Everything else that I have done, I'm from the Virgin Islands, has been within the territory. I have been able to use my woman-owned business certification to procure contracts, real living live contracts, which every lady on here, I really am a big proponent of female businesswomen. And I invite you just to get your feet wet and see what you can achieve.
Okay, what's the average time period to get a SAM and a NAICS code?
It really happens pretty quickly once you gather all of the data that they are requiring from you. So you do have to get through the process. It happens relatively quickly. I would not suggest you jumping on PNP today and seeing something that's due on Friday and trying to get all your ducks in a row. That can create an inordinate amount of stress for you in the procurement process that is already stressful. There's some requirements as far as, tax clearance and, putting your designations together. And basically it just becomes a filing cabinet for all of the information that the feds do use to do business with you. So, set aside some time. If you're going to work on it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday till you get it done, that's probably the best way that you can do it. As I mentioned in the earlier slides, there are companies that do help you with those requirements. There are fees that run anywhere from between, I'd say it's like $6 $700 now up to about $1,500. If you're the type of person that is right now profitable and making money with your business, it may be worth that investment for you. If you're just starting out, keep your money in your pocket and just get through the process, and you should be able to achieve that in a few weeks.
Okay, great. Next question. How do I get a business on the government list prior to getting a contract with an agency, local government list?
Okay, so if I understand you correctly in your query, you would like to know if it's possible to become a registered entity with a particular agency in the government. I hope I've understood you correctly, Ms. Williams. Is that what you're understanding?
That's what I understand. And the person
Okay.
said yes.
Okay, perfect. So there are autonomous and semi-autonomous agencies typically have a procurement path that they follow, where if you are a pencil supplier and you want to register with them, you can take one of two paths. There are specific areas of those agency websites where you can register, and you will be asked to list the services that you offer. They will notify you when an RFP is coming out that matches your qualifications. So if you're a pencil salesman and they're looking for pencils, when they see that, they should bump you an email. For all federal procurement, that has to be done through monitoring your SAM site. The only exception to that is there's also the ability to register on the PNP site, where the same process is followed. You can search and match up the different RFPs that are being offered in order to facilitate participation.
Okay, great. We answered that question and they say thank you. Okay, do we have, oh, good afternoon and thank you for the presentation, Ms. Monches. Are there any price preferences given at the state, local, territory level for businesses certified in one of the small business categories?
That's a very good question. In each procurement, depending on how it's designated, let's speak specifically about what set aside means, which is going to help you understand a little bit. On a set aside, the federal government is saying this particular procurement is set aside for this group of persons. Within that response by those types of persons, because everyone that responds that does not meet that qualification is going to be eliminated, it is a dollar for dollar competition among that group. When you're responding to a general solicitation, and when I say general, I mean open, the solicitation is open to all, there is a scoring mechanism that is used by the bid review committee that gives certain amount of score based on the response. So what that means is your price of your bid will have a % impact on your response. Your certification will have a value, and several other categories will have a value that makes up the response scoring that you have for that RFP. It does not mean that the low price or a higher price will designate whether you win or not. So if I were to answer specifically your question, every competition, whether it's a set aside or a general, has a price component that's tied to the response that is specific to that procurement. I hope that helps.
Okay, that was a lot of good information. Okay, now in terms of people getting their NAICS code, they basically decide which categories they qualify in, correct? Can you explain?
That is correct.
Okay.
So typically they ask you to select a primary code. You can do research on the internet prior to making that selection. I would caution you that you can work with your SBDC representative, because the loans that we've seen coming out currently, the PPP and the EDL loans are tied back to your business classification. So let's say you have a restaurant classification now, the federal government acknowledges and realizes that COVID has had a detrimental effect on that subcategory of business. So you will be treated accordingly when you make a selection of your code. So try to make sure that that code that you select most specifically represents your business entity. And I would definitely speak to a counselor to make sure that you don't miss out on any financial opportunities as we work our way through this latest global pandemic.
In reference to federal contracts, if you have a NAICS code, should you list all of your NAICS codes when you're applying?
So you'll notice when you enter the SAMS portal that there are registration opportunities. You'll have a primary number, and you can add to that other codes that you participate in. Personally, I've read these codes over and over again. Some of them just don't make any sense. So like I said, if you're going to make that decision, you do not have to make it in a vacuum. You know, the small business folks that are counseling here in the territory are really, really committed to your success. You don't have to make that decision without them. You know, if you're in a position where you have a running entity and you want to hire a consultant to help you get through those things, that's fantastic. You're probably already busy and you probably already made enough money. If that's not the case, you know, make sure you utilize them, but you are entitled to list multiple codes in your portfolio.
Okay. Great. All right. Do we have any more questions for Ms. Monches? Well, I don't have any more questions listed right now, but I just put a copy of the presentation in the chat so everyone can download that. Okay, and you can register for next week's webinar, which is on Bonding 101. And if we have no more questions, I'm going to say thank you, Ms. Monches, for your time this afternoon. And on behalf of our Virgin Islands State Director at the SBDC, Mr. Ted Gutierrez, and our staff on St. Croix, as well as our staff on St. Thomas, we want to thank you for your presentation, tips, strategies, and best practices for government contracting. And with that,
thank you very much for having me. My contact information is on the slide, so that anyone was participating here, please feel free to reach out. I would gladly take some questions from you, and I'm running a business too, so you know, I don't have all the time in the world, but definitely I'm inviting anyone to reach out to me. That's my landline, so you can reach me during normal business hours.
Okay, all right, that's great information. Thank you very much, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.